scoot over and make room, please? All right, let's get started. So our next case is State of Ohio versus Bryanna Barozzini, 23 CR 1730. We're here today for sentencing. The court's had the benefit of the pre-sentence investigation, sentencing memorandum filed on behalf of the defendant. The court also had the benefit of reviewing exhibits, photographs taken by the detectives, and the video. I spent a fair amount of time reviewing the video last night. So these are the items that I have reviewed and the pre-sentence investigation. So before we get started, I want to let everybody know I understand this is an emotional and heart-rendering situation. But I do expect decorum. That's why we have the officers here. This is a courtroom. It's not the street. We have rules. If you disobey the rules, you're going out of the courtroom. If you disrupt the proceedings, you can be held in contempt and locked up. I've done it before. I don't want to do that today. Again, I understand this is an emotional situation. I'm going to let you have 5 people instead of the 4 that we generally allow. And whatever presentation you have, we're going to listen to that. All right, we can't have people standing in the courtroom. So, if you're not here for this case, I prefer you to be out in the hallway. Anybody not here for this case? If you're not here for this case, please go in the hallway and make room. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. You want to take your hat off, sir? Thank you. All right, so back to the decorum. You're going to be brought up here to the court reporter, whoever wants to speak, and I'll allow the number you've requested. Address your remarks to me. There's no turning around, addressing them to her. Same with your people. Remarks are to be addressed to me. And I hope they're remarks that are appropriate. I understand everybody's upset. It's my job to maintain decorum and make a decision based on the law. And I know that I've handled death penalty cases. I've been here 15 years. I've handled so many cases you wouldn't believe it. Rape of babies, murder, executions. I've seen it all. So I do expect decorum. All right. Lawyers, enter your appearances, please.
Good morning, Your Honor. Trenton Gurley and Kirk Shaw on behalf of the State of Ohio.
Good morning, Your Honor. Bob Crabess on behalf of Bryanna Barozzini, present in the courtroom to my left.
Thank you. Prosecution, you want to outline your position and or have anyone who would like to speak up to the number we've indicated speak under Marcy's law.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state at this time would like to begin with victim impact statements from the victim's family.
All right, very good. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Langley, Langley.
Thank you. What would you like to tell me?
I am Halia's grandmother. Being a witness at the birth of Halia was an honor and has been etched in detail in my memory. I truly believe that was a heavenly gift from God, knowing that Halia's time with us was short. Haley, Halia's mama, had a naming ceremony for her. She placed her precious little baby on her hospital bed and started with names she had considered, and when she said Halia, there was a smile on that sweet baby's face. So that was her name. Halia was involved in ballet, softball, baseball, lacrosse. She was a good swimmer and pretty good at diving, which I taught, even though I couldn't dive myself. She loved to skateboard and dirt bike. She was willing to try anything, and you could see the joy on her face. She had a God-given talent for athletics. I remember one softball game, she had stolen third base, and the next hit, the coach waved her home, but the ball was thrown home, so Halia was caught between home and third base. So she ran between the bases. And running between third base and home, she finally made her play and ran and slid home, and she was called safe for the winning run. When she was about 3, she wanted to walk our dog, a playful lab, golden retriever mix. It had snowed about 4 inches. Halia slipped and the dog pulled her along on her tummy, but she never let go of the leash. She came in covered in snow with the biggest smile on her face, thrilled for the ride. She loved it. When my husband and I moved into a new neighborhood, she knew our neighbors before we did. They knew her by name and she knew theirs and how many kids they had. This was part of the message I shared at Halia's celebration of life service, which sounds so absurd since she was only 17. She hadn't even begun to understand what she had to offer this world. Her family and friends didn't even get a chance to watch how far her talents and love for life would take her. She had a singing voice from heaven. Halia and Kaylin, her sister, sang together all the time, and at times, Haley would join them. How amazing they sounded together. Halia would use my phone from time to time and listen to music. I find myself listening to her music. What a cherished gift she had left me. She was an amazing big sister, always taking care and looking after Kaylin. I miss having Halia bouncing in the front door, saying, "Hey, Grams, what's going on? Do you want to go to the dollar store?" And then Goodwill. She would rather go there than American Eagle most of the time. Halia was always looking for something special on sale or unique. She always liked Bath & Body Works and, of course, Victoria's Secrets. They say how horrifying it would be to outlive your child. Well, I'm telling you, feeling the grief, suffering the pain of outliving your granddaughter is unbearable. However, for me to witness my child lose her child and to be helpless to help, to witness Haley struggle, trying to get through her day every day, having to choose a casket, what clothes Halia should wear to stay warm, unable to hold a job now because she's unable to concentrate, unable to sleep. Halia is gone. Well, so is Haley and Kaylin, lost in an abyss of depression and desperation, anger, frustration, and confusion. Haley and Kaylin began serving their sentence on 27 March 2023, as have the rest of Halia's loved ones. We haven't gotten over a year reprieve. We don't get a maximum 3-year sentence. Our sentence is a lifelong heartbreak. To know that Halia was alone without family to comfort her, to pray with her, continually burdens my heart. I continually witness Kaylin in her grief, unable to cope with the loss of her sister, confidant, secret keeper, and best friend. Halia was so excited that her aunt was pregnant, but she never got to meet her beautiful, sweet cousin. That is a relationship that was stolen from both of them. Things that Halia will never be able to do. turn 18, graduate high school, graduate college, buy her first car, vote, get her first apartment, start a career, go on vacation, get married, buy a home, have a child, sing with Kaylin and her mama, share secrets with Kaylin and her mama, share a life with her, Kaylin and her mama, give her sister and her mama hugs and kisses, tell her sister and her mama just how much she loves them, watch her mama grow old and grow old with her sister. Two words that everyone always says is closure and justice. As far as I'm concerned, there is no closure. Our family will forever be brokenhearted. Halia's family has heart pain that will never heal. As for justice here on earth, there are punishments and consequences for your crimes. You committed an unspeakable crime, and for that you deserve to be punished equal to your crime. While we see that our justice system completely failed in that respect, and shame on you for not standing up and taking accountability for exactly what you did. You intentionally took Halia's life. So justice will be up to Father God alone. You have not taken just one life, but you have killed the lives of generations yet to come. A burden that I will carry to my death will be that Halia was going to come over to my house that evening, but I canceled because I wasn't feeling well. What if only? I am so very sorry, my beloved. I will love you until the end of my days. Love, Grams. Judge, I respectfully ask that you sentence the defendant to the maximum time with no chance of early release. This request is not meant to be vindictive or from a point of vengeance, but fairness. The defendant texted her intentions, which then she followed through, resulting in the murder of my 17-year-old granddaughter. We will never get to hug Halia again, talk to her, share with her, see her smile, hear her voice, hear her sing, and yes, even argue with her. All of this has been forever stolen from us and her. I am a Christian and I am a follower of Jesus. And going through this, I have prayed and prayed and prayed. And through this, I have also heard Halia speaking to me. My name is Halia Culbertson. I was 17 years old on the 27th of March, 2023. I was left on a dirty pavement in the cold and dark, mortally wounded from a knife wound inflicted by my killer. This was no accident. My killer intended on taking my life. Instead of calling for help, my killer fled the scene. Killer went home to hide the knife and shoes splattered with my blood, put the bloody clothes in the washer and got a shower. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I could feel myself slipping away. I went from being a normal teenager to fighting for my life. Some people think that this was my fault. I may have made a mistake. If so, I own that. But I didn't deserve this. I had so many plans, so much to live for, so much to do and see. I miss my sister. I love her so much, and she really needed me. I hope the next time something like this happens, the victim won't be blamed for being murdered while the killer gets a pass. I deserve better. I was just a normal girl trying to find my way. I could have been your sister, your daughter, or even your granddaughter. So please, I know you will do your very best to make sure that my killer is punished for what she did to me. Thank you, Halia. And since then, with the plea agreement, P.S. I understand that a plea deal has been reached with my killer, involuntary manslaughter, with a maximum sentence of 3 years, and could ask for an early release as early as after spending 1 year. Is that really all my life was worth? I really cannot understand our justice system if this is considered an appropriate punishment for premeditated murder. Killer texted that she was going to cut my throat just 1 week prior, and that's exactly what Killer did. Killer fled the scene, hid evidence, destroyed evidence, and took a shower. Does that not show guilt? No remorse has been conveyed for what she did. Not a tear has been shed for me or my family. But for her, that's a different story. Prosecutor, you told my family you would fight for me. You did not. You had more than enough evidence. You had 2 girls in a fist fight and 1 brought a knife. What you kept conveying to my family was that the jury would not convict at this time. I just can't believe that the public is willing to accept killers receiving 1 to 3 years in prison with the ability to get out after serving as little as 1 year. Is it any wonder that criminals believe that they can get away with murder because they can? Judge, how did you accept this deal as fair? There was a video and a text message, as well as other evidence. When you put on that robe every day, you are supposed to be fair and look out for the victim, not the killer. In my case, you seem to have forgotten that. I was only
I dispute that, ma'am.
I was only
Ma'am,
17.
you listen to me now for a moment.
Was my life worth only 3 years? 1 moment in time took me away from everyone that loved me and everyone that I loved. Please don't forget me and what Killer did to me. Respectfully, Halia Culbertson. There are people that light up the world, and Halia was one of them.
I do thank you for your statement. I don't make the plea bargains, the prosecutor
I
does.
understand.
Thank you. Good morning.
Spell your last name and what's your relationship to Halia?
My name is, my name's Mackenzie Adrian, Adrean. Halia was like my little sister and my best friend. I've wrote this about 1 million times, and Halia was like a little sister I never had. I loved her like she was my blood. She knew how to laugh and make things seem like they weren't as bad as they really were. She was always there if you needed to talk or to cry or even to scream in a car, to literally any song. She was always that person if she knew that she couldn't defend themselves, if someone couldn't defend themselves, she would stand up and defend them for her friends. As she always wanted to be 18 years old, it was like her goal. When I met her, actually, I didn't know her name for a day. Until the next day, she called me, and we just called each other Blue and Zuzu. In this disguise Halia used to wear, she used to act like she was not caring, and she would act like nothing ever hurt her, but Halia was that girl who hid behind this mask, and she was sensitive. And her heart was big, and that if someone she loved hurt her feelings, it broke her. She was 17 years old when she lost her life. She had so many things she wanted to do with her life, and when I used to come back over to her family was always there. One of them was always there. We used to just make TikToks with Halia and her little sister, Kaylin. One of my favorite memories of Halia was when we got this cat and we co-parented her. We spent a long time to figure out a real name for her. And that cat Halia's little sister Caitlin now takes care of ever since Halia has been gone. There's a million things about who Halia was, but in all honesty, if you ever got the chance to meet her, she would have made an impact on anyone's life she ever met. She is the reason I wear a nose ring, have a certain tattoos, think about the world differently. She used to always tell me all the time, let me buy your car. I always say no, and now I've never drove that car since she died. She was the most beautiful person I've ever met. Everything about her strengths, her hardships, her sadness, her anger, her soul. She was one in a million. And the reason I wanted to write this, and I wanted to speak, was to tell you who Halia was, and my personal feelings towards this whole thing.
Take your time, it's fine.
Keep going for her. You're doing your best.
I'd rather be standing at her wedding and giving a speech, or her graduation. But I'm here. And I know Halia. And I know her killer. The past 6 years of my life, I've dealt with her killer, her family. Halia's killer and her family I've dealt for 6 years of my life. And when I finally thought I was getting away from these people, and I finally got my family away from these people, Halia's killer did this to the most important person in my life. That night, I felt a part of my soul, more like all of it left when Halia left. I relived March 27th of 2023 in my head every day. All I see is Halia in my arms, and I'm screaming on the phone with 911 telling them to hurry. Then I wake up and it's 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and it's the next morning, and it was my dream. Every night since I lost her. Halia never got another birthday, or Christmas, or Thanksgiving. No more holidays. But her killer got to spend every holiday last year since Halia's been killed, freely and with her family. When Halia's family, her whole family, never gets another one. She's forever 17 and that lives in my mind. If anyone ever asks me what kind of people or how I would describe the Barozzinis, I'd say I can't trust them as far as I can throw them. I wish this wasn't what I was doing, reading a statement. I'd rather be sitting there every day through court and talking on trial 1,000,000 times and writing and saying my statement to you. I wish I was reading a speech at her wedding, seeing her raise kids, get her nursing degree she always wanted, or even living and talking to her when we get old in a nursing home. After listening to me and hearing my statement, I hope you understand who Leah was. She was an absolutely beautiful, that soul that she had always wanted to help. Her heart was so big she could give it to anyone. I miss her every day. She was my alarm in the morning, my personal therapist when I needed someone to talk to, and my little sister in my eyes. I could tell you about Leah for hours, but I couldn't make you listen that long. I hope that her killer gets the maximum sentence. I hope you realize or understand someone who Halia really was in this world. A daughter, a sister, a cousin, a friend, a student, a co-worker, a granddaughter, a niece, an aunt. She was someone's child that got taken too soon, and she is now forever 17 years old.
Thank you for your statement.
Say your name, spell your last name, and what your relationship is.
My name is Halia Culbertson, Culbertson. Your Honor, I would like to tell you about my big sister, Halia. My sister, my protector, my best friend. Halia was a strong-willed woman who struggled in life but never gave up. She worked so hard everywhere she could. She made sure I was always taken care of. She worked non-stop. She always loved keeping herself busy and always made sure to give her all everywhere she could. She was always so determined to have a bright future. She was working towards it every day. I would like to take this time to express the pain and suffering due to the brutal murder of my sister, Halia. I can hardly stand the pain at times. The thought of the last night of her life will be with me always. Halia was the closest person I had by my side and in my circle. She was the kindest, most loving sister I could ever ask for. Throughout my life, I always looked up to Halia. She has been there to share my joy and laughter as much as she has been there to be my shoulder to cry on and pick me up when I was at my worst. Halia had the biggest heart, and no matter what was going on with her, Halia always put others first. She was always helping anyone she could. She had the strongest soul, and she always stood up for everybody, including me. Wherever and whenever anyone needed her, Halia was always one call away. When I would break down anywhere I was, she would always find a way to come get me and cheer me up and tell me not to let this world hurt me. No matter how hard it got, I knew she would always be right by my side to bring my smile back. The very last time I heard my sister's voice was March 26th at 10:50 p.m. I called her just to see what she was up to, and as she picks up the phone, I ask her where she is and who she was with. She laughed and told me she was hanging out at her friend's house. I asked her, no boys, right? She smiled over the phone. I was always making sure she was okay and having a good night, and the last thing I told her was to call me in the morning and stay safe, and that I love her so much. She said, I love you too, sis, and hung up. Little did I know that that would be the very last time I would ever get to hear her voice. A 24-second phone call I never expected to be the last. On March 27th at 12:24 in the morning, my beloved sister was gone. This villain took my sister's life that night, but my sister's life was not the only thing it took. It robbed me of my happiness. It stole my smile. It took the best part of me I will never be able to get back. Because of this, my sister is gone forever, and every time I want to talk to Halia, I have to go sit at a graveyard and talk to her headstone, wishing I could just hear her voice one more time. I wish I could just wake up and run into her room and lay in her bed and hug her and tell her I love her just one more time. This villain ruined every memory Halia never got to make. Because of this, I never got to watch my sister walk across the stage and graduate high school. Because of this, I never got to see my sister go on to college and get a degree. I never get to watch my sister find the right guy and walk down the aisle and say I do. My sister always wanted children. She always wanted to be a mother. And because of this, she never got to experience any of that. Because of this, I will never get to see my sister Halia smile again. Because of this, I will never get to hear her laugh. I never get my best friend back. And I never get to hear Halia's voice ever again. I miss my sister more than anything. I've lost a lot of people in my life, but nothing has scarred me so badly as losing Halia. I don't have many friends in this world, but when I was with my sister, I didn't need anyone else. Halia and I have always stuck together. She took me with her everywhere she went and made sure I always felt included and never alone. Now she is gone, and I sit in my room across from hers, wishing to hear her voice telling me to get ready, we're going for a ride. She always took me on all kinds of adventures. The last birthday of mine she got to be here for, she and I spent the whole day together. She took me to one of my favorite restaurants and took me to get a gift, and we went and drove around and listened to our favorite songs. Then she dropped me off with my brother while she went and got me a cake and sat in the driveway and decorated it for an hour. When I got back, she surprised me with it with the biggest smile on her face. She was so happy. I was so happy. That was the last time my sister got to wish me a happy birthday. Now it's different. It will never be the same. Getting older than my older sister is one of the worst feelings I have to deal with. She deserves to be here. I am lost without her in this world. This villain murdered my sister, Halia. This villain took everything away from Halia when it decided to take her life. It took away her dreams. It took away her future. From us, the family left behind, it took away a sister from her loving siblings, a daughter from our caring parents, an aunt from her beloved nieces, and a great friend and a wonderful, talented person, and left our family with the worst feeling we could ever have. This justice system does not make sense to me. Please explain how someone can murder a civilian and only serve up a max of 3 years and get released as early as 1 year. I may be young, but one thing I've always been taught is that while we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose our consequences. To the ones who believe this villain was just defending herself, please listen. This villain had sent out a text a week before she murdered Halia, saying, and I'd quote, "I'd sooner slice Halia's throat if she comes near me again, as well as, excuse my language, I will cut that bitch on my whole family." How could someone be so cruel? How could someone be so vicious? This doesn't sound like someone who could feel remorse. This villain took my sister's life. There is good and evil all over this world, and everyone has a choice to choose between. But that night, this villain chose to be evil. 1 year, 3 months, and 15 days since this villain murdered my sister. And every day I've gone scared for my life because this villain gets to walk freely. Do you know how terrifying it is to be scared wherever you go because this villain and his family could be right near me and I do not know? This is terrifying. Not only that, I will never be able to trust anyone again. This villain, Halia, once called her best friend. Someone who met my whole family and slept in my house. Someone who was supposed to be my sister's best friend stabbed my sister and left her to bleed out. Well, it went home and put its clothes in the washer, hid its bloody shoes and the knife she used to kill Halia, and got in the shower. All while my sister was fending for her life in her last moments. This villain left and didn't even call for help after she committed this crime. How can someone be so inhumane to just take somebody's life and leave them to bleed, to go home and wash off her blood? Halia is now 6 feet underground forever. She never gets to come back. Don't do something permanently stupid just because you're temporarily upset. This is the cruel world I have to grow up in. This is the world where I know every day my sister's killer gets to walk free with nothing but a slap on her wrist. I am more than outraged and heartbroken. I will live the rest of my life in this nightmare waiting to wake up and my sister still be here. But all I can do is let you hear my words and be the voice for my sister since this villain took Halia's. Our choices determine our direction in life. But if we do not own this fact, we do not know where we are going. And when we resent where we end up, and we resent where we end up as if it were someone else's fault. Halia deserves justice. We will never get Halia back. This villain should feel disgusted with itself. I truly don't know how someone could do that to Halia or anyone at all in this case and just go on with their life knowing what they have done and still feel no remorse for their actions. Your Honor, now over a year later, I ask this court to consider a magnitude and impact of this crime against Halia. I would ask Your Honor to consider sentencing Bryanna J. Barozzini to the maximum sentence under the law, as any time spent incarcerated is nothing compared to what Halia and our family will experience for a lifetime. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. That was an excellent statement.
Do you need water?
Please.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Yes. Do you want the judge to sit there?
Good morning, Your Honor. Thank you. 1 year, 3 months, 15 days. 15 months, 15 days. 67.4 weeks. 472 days. 11,328 hours. That's how long Halia's been gone. But who's counting? Today is the day. Today is the day. Thank you, Your Honor. I must first express my personal discomfort and distress over the decision to live stream the court proceedings.
It's not being live streamed right now.
Previously,
It was previously.
this decision placed us in a position where we must endure the public display of our private grief and the details of our tragedy broadcasted for anyone to view. A harsh reminder of how grief feels exploited for headlines. Be that as it may, I understand the importance and the necessity of transparency in the judicial process in order to uphold the integrity of the legal system. I ask that you just use discretion for my family, for the things that I've been surprised with today that will be shown. I stand before you to convey the profound and devastating impact with a heavy heart, with grief, and a soul burdened by an unimaginable loss of my beloved firstborn daughter, who was taken from us in an intended act of violence. The pain of losing a child is indescribable. It's a constant ache in my heart, a knot in my stomach that never loosens. But despite my overwhelming grief, my role as a wife and a mother demanded that I become a rock for my family. From the moment that we received the devastating news, I found myself thrust into a whirlwind of emotions, shock, and so many new unknown responsibilities. Because in the wake of tragedy, a mother must summon the courage to face practical challenges that no parent should have to confront. Identifying and preparing your child's lifeless body, planning a funeral for our daughter felt so surreal. What will she wear? what casket, flowers, music, where, headstone, obituary, transportations, accommodations. I'm sure I left a million things out. Trapped in a nightmare. I couldn't wake up. I can't wake up. No way to escape. Yet I had to stay strong. Strong for my husband crumbling under the weight of the grief, and strong for our children who were trying to understand, trying to make sense of losing their sister. Supporting my family through their grief became my sole purpose. I listened to their cries. I held them close as they cried and screamed, and tried to answer the unanswerable questions about why this happened. Every day a struggle to keep going, to find some sense of normalcy amidst the chaos of loss and mourning. Our daughter was not just a child lost. She was light and love that brightened the lives of everyone around her. Her laughter, her dreams, her imaginations, the stories she could tell, and her boundless kindness were all taken from us in a moment of violence. Our hearts ache with an emptiness that no words can truly express, knowing that she will never get to experience the future she fully deserves. Our family's been robbed of the joy of watching our child grow, learn, thrive, achieve milestones, and embark on her journey into adulthood. Brothers and sisters, cousins and nieces, friends, loved ones lose not only a best friend, but a lifelong bond and future shared memories they can no longer fulfill together. The pain of losing a child reverberates through like a systemic wave of sorrow and constant disbelief. There's a silence. It echoes now in our home, in our hearts, infiltrating every aspect of our daily lives. Sleepless nights, haunted by dreams, unanswered questions. Dreams unfulfilled become the new norm. Trust and safety and security is shattered, replaced by fear, vulnerability. It is a pain that permeates every aspect of our existence, a constant reminder of what we have lost and what could have been. What have you done in the last 472 days? Have any of you counted them? Have you lost track of them? Have you celebrated them with people you love? Have you sat quietly by a stone while hoping your angels were watching from up above? Have you made any change in your life to be better than at least the day before? Or have you given up, checked out, no point in playing life anymore? 472 days ago, time marked. Before this, after this. New words given to the grieving. Moving forward. The day you realize moving forward is forever different. Each day now becomes a blessing and a curse. Blessed to see the last 472 days, breathe the air, to go on living. Cursed to go on with the most important family member missing, Halia, my firstborn. I taught my family love because that's what was taught to me. We teach and love our family unconditionally. Halia took that love to share with the world. Life was her adventure every day. Every day, something new, something amazing. She wanted to go everywhere, do everything. She just couldn't wait. In the midst of our grief, we were forced to face a justice system that seemed to overlook the true gravity of the tragedy, or attempt to even fight for it. Every attempt to convey our feelings, maybe they heard it, however, ignored it. No plea, no deal, not fair. Go to trial, bring light. I want the facts even when they suck. Thoughts become your words, become your actions. We've gone over this. A plea deal to the person that took her life, someone who had already expressed their intent. It feels like a betrayal of my daughter's memory and the justice that she was promised. How can a plea deal for involuntary manslaughter be enough for someone who sends out threats and acted with deliberate intent. Intention seems to be the key. If you saw the text messages, which I'll read in its entirety. Like, please, both those bitches can go to hell. Halia got my niece taken from me. The audacity of either of them to say they miss me. I'd sooner slice Halia's throat if she comes near me again. 'Cause I know she called me off no caller ID. One of her buddies told me who was there, and she went past my house in a Mustang. My brother woke me up and told me, and I got in a car chasing after them, but they dipped. My nephew was there. I was pissed. I will cut that bitch on my whole family if she tries showing up to my family's home again. Halia hangs out with my brother's baby's mom. That's a pathetic little bitch. That's why she misses me. Intention seems to be the key. Intention that I see real clear. She wished my daughter to hell. She was clearly mad. She blames Halia for her niece being taken away. She swore on her whole family her intent. So how does she end up at the same place and the same time at this daughter of mine? Because she kept going. An empty parking lot at 11:30 on a Sunday night. How many other cars were there besides hers? Maybe 2? You knew she was in there before you even entered the store, but you kept going. Why were you there? You passed 2 gas stations. Why this store? The drinks you bought. You bought alcohol you're not even old enough for. So Halia starts yelling at you once you came in, but you kept going. She went outside because you both agreed to meet there. So you had a moment to take a pause, to call for help, but you kept going. You can see through that door. It's glass. You can see she's still there, but you kept going. Then a scuffle started. You can't take anymore. What were you doing, fighting with a child for? 'Cause you kept going. Then you got mad 'cause she got a few hits in. So you decide it's your choice, her life you should end, 'cause you kept going. Then you pulled a knife, 'cause you probably unintentionally brought that with you too, and you kept going. You slashed her, you stabbed her. You know she's never armed. She was fighting by her childish playground ways. A fight's a fight. Fight it out. You get to walk away. But you brought a knife to a kid fight, and you kept going. Ead drove you there and drove you away. You called no one to tell them that someone needs help. Nah, give her time to bleed out, because you kept going. You kept going all the way home to quickly get out of those blood-stained clothes. Wash them. With what intention? You kept going. The shoes, what did you do? You hid them. With what intention? You kept going. The knife, you brought that back too. You hid it. With what intention? You kept going. While Halia was gasping for her last breaths, you left her to die so you could intentionally hide. Mugshots posted, no marks, no black eyes, not even a bruise. But you have now done what you intended to do. And while you're on your overnight, you tell them you would do it again. Your thoughts become your words become your actions. I've read every comment they tell you not to. I've talked to the whole world about what to do. I've watched the videos, I've read every text. I listened to the 911 call and heard my Halia gasping for her last breaths. Hum when it hurts and you'll get through the pain. When they were hurting as a mama, that's what I would explain. My baby was humming. Kenzie called out to 911 for help. Stabbed just above the heart, not in the neck. Bleeding internally. That's how my baby went to heaven, you see. They came and they drove her to Riverside, but wait, why? St. Anne's is so much closer. None of it makes sense to me. They took her away before I could see her. None of that makes sense to me. They autopsied when I said no. No one is listening to me. Today is the day you hear me speak. Your Honor, as we gather here today to seek justice for our daughter, I need to remind everyone that this was not just the tragic death of a child. It was a heartbreaking betrayal of a young life taken by someone who was once a best friend. My daughter was not killed by a faceless stranger, but by a person who was once trusted and loved, a friend who knew her, understood her, shared countless moments of her life. This betrayal makes the loss even more profound, as it was not an random act of violence, but a calculated decision made by someone who is supposed to protect and cherish her. This is not just a matter of justice for a victim. It's about recognizing the deep personal breach of trust, the devastating impact that such a loss has on a family. My daughter's death is a stark reminder of how trust can be shattered in the most unexpected ways. And it's vital for the court to consider this profound betrayal as part of the pursuit of justice for her. To justify the taking of my daughter's life as an act of self-preservation is to diminish the essence of who she was. And the defendant's plea for involuntary manslaughter offered by the defense does not adequately address the severity of the crime, nor provide the justice that my daughter deserves. A well-crafted argument for a plea deal involves not only presenting the facts of the case, but also addressing the legal, emotional, and practical aspects of the plea agreement by emphasizing the benefits of the deal for both the defendant and the prosecution. The attorneys then demonstrate that the plea is a fair and just resolution to the case. Plea deals are standard in the legal system and promote judicial efficiency by resolving cases in a manner that is fair and expedient. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to consider this. If given a choice, would we not all prefer to endure the hardships of a prison sentence over the finality of death? Years in prison is a period of suffering and regret, but it's also a chance, an opportunity for personal growth, for making amends, and for finding a path forward. Death, on the other hand, is an absolute and a final. It offers no chance for change, redemption, or future possibilities. I ask Your Honor to consider the true nature of this crime and the impact it has had on our lives. I urge you to recognize the enormity of our loss. Justice must prevail for my daughter, our daughter, who deserves to be remembered not as a statistic in a courtroom, but as a cherished daughter, sister, granddaughter, niece, cousin, aunt, friend, whose life was unfairly taken from us. We navigate this painful journey of grief and healing. I implore you to render a decision that honors the true facts of this case that you have seen. Our daughter's life mattered. Her memory deserves justice, honor our daughter's memory to ensure her death is not in vain. In most scenarios, bringing a knife to a fist fight is considered unethical, illegal, dangerous. It's crucial to approach conflicts with a mindset of de-escalation and consider the potential consequences of introducing a weapon into a physical altercation. The right course of action usually involves seeking a nonviolent resolution to ensure your safety through legal and ethical means. Here we have a smart, college-educated, 4.0 student with so many recommendations from friends and family for the pre-sentencing investigation. That sounds like someone that should know the difference between right and wrong. Maybe she's just smart enough to play us all. She knows child from adult. She's a woman. She's grown. We're not in juvenile court. We're not here to talk to her like she's a child, to get her hopes up on early release. The defendant's thoughts became her words became her actions now her destiny. She has inflicted irreparable harm. She has shattered and devastated families and lives. Her disregard for the law and basic human decency demands the fullest extent of justice under the law. I implore Your Honor to impose the maximum sentence allowable, so those that affected may be able to feel some kind of safety walking around, especially my youngest daughter. In the end, Bryanna, you and God know the truth. I hope you can make peace there. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you for your statement.
Your Honor, there's some additional arguments that the state would like to offer for
All right,
today.
anybody, so that's all that's going to speak, is that correct?
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
All right. So we did have a short discussion on the back about the playing of the video. So it's my understanding the prosecution desires to play the video. The defense has a video they want to play also. So I'm going to allow that, but family members, I think you've seen it, but if it's, I know it's disturbing. I watched it, it's disturbing to me. So anybody that doesn't want to be in the courtroom while the video is played, they can exit the courtroom and come back. It's up to the family and this family also. So is this your, what computer are we on right now?
Mr. Crapens's computer has all these
See if
things.
we can move over.
No, Judge, I'm gonna play it from here. We've agreed.
Oh,
All the
okay.
videos are on one flash drive, so if we keep it here, I'll go ahead whenever the state's ready. Start it. Thank you.
All right. And it's your desire to play the video, correct?
It is, Your Honor. Not quite at this point in time, but it is my desire to play.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Your Honor, this is a case of tragedy. Tragedy that resulted in the killing of a young woman named Halia Culbertson. Halia was 17 years old at the time of her death. Your Honor, this tragic killing is a direct result of rage. To put it plainly, Bryanna Barozzini stabbed Halia Culbertson because she was angry. There is no doubt that Bryanna Barozzini's actions on March 26 of 2023 were provoked by Halia Culbertson. Halia wanted to engage in a fistfight with Bryanna. Halia began arguing with Bryanna inside of the 161 smoke shop when the two ran into each other by mere coincidence. Halia challenged Bryanna to a fight. When asked to leave the 161 smoke shop, Halia proceeded to wait for Bryanna outside. Once Bryanna came outside, Halia still pushed for the two to have a fist fight. And that's exactly what Halia did, Your Honor. She engaged. She slapped Bryanna Barozzini in the face. Your Honor, all of that is fact. It is reasonable that those actions would anger Bryanna Barozzini. However, none of those actions justify Bryanna Barozzini taking a knife and plunging it into Halia's clavicle. Rather, that is an act of unjustifiable rage. A stabbing is a disproportionate response to a slap. Your Honor, today this court has the responsibility of deciding the appropriate sentence for Ms. Barozzini. I anticipate that the defense will ask the court to determine that Halia's actions are mitigating facts that warrant Ms. Barozzini being sentenced to a term of probation. Your Honor, the state submits to the court that the plea resolution in this case already factored in the mitigating circumstances surrounding this case. The unjustified killing of Halia Culbertson warrants the maximum prison sentence allowed by law. Your Honor, you've already heard from the family of the victim. Their grief, their thoughts, their loss, all of this gives this court justification to sentence Ms. Barozzini to prison. However, there are a few substantive points that I would like to draw to the court's attention. One of the biggest questions before this court comes down to Revised Code Section 2929.12c, where this court must weigh whether there are substantial grounds that exist to mitigate the offender's conduct. This entire case at trial would have hinged on this question, Judge. Was this a case of self-defense, or was this a case of an enraged killing? Your Honor, the state would like to turn to State's Exhibit A, the video that Your Honor has already discussed. Go ahead, Bob. Thank you.
Hey, get off my sister, bro. Get off my sister. Hey, if you touch my sister again, I'm gonna have to put my phone down, bro. Halia, crunch her ass to get it over with, bro. Crunch her ass to get it over with, Halia. Yeah, crunch her ass, Halia. Crunch her ass, Halia. Crunch her ass, Halia. Crunch her ass, Halia. Fuck her up.
What's up, bitch?
You better get your girl before she get fucked up even more.
Uh-huh.
You just leaked her ass.
Thank you, Ms. Ravens. Your Honor, there are a few points that I would like to make after watching State's Exhibit A, and a few comments in the pre-sentence investigation that I think demonstrates why this is an appropriate prison case. Your Honor, throughout this case, there was a pre-sentence investigation done where there are comments about the offender's version of the events. And I think State's Exhibit A shed some light into the version of the events that Ms. Barozzini has offered forth to this court.
It's
First-
clear to me from watching the video that it was a fist fight. She took the knife out of her pocket somewhat surreptitiously. She was backing away from her, but she got slapped, and then she moved away from her and she came forward with the knife. It's very clear from the video. She could have taken the slap. That might have been the end of it. People shouldn't bring weapons to a fist fight.
Your Honor, and that's exactly the state's point that it wishes to make, that this is not a case where a knife was brandished to avoid a conflict. This is a case where a knife was put down on his side, and then once Halia Culbertson engaged, she was eventually stabbed by Ms. Barozzini. Your Honor, that type of conduct is not conduct indicative of self-defense. That's conduct that's indicative of rage. Your Honor, there's been some comments about text messages that were sent in this case, and I think that it's important to know what the state thinks that the text messages demonstrate throughout this case. The text messages demonstrate that there was an ongoing feud already between the defendant and the victim in this case. Judge, there's no way to mince words here. There was bad blood between the two. The text messages demonstrate that Ms. Barozzini was mad at her. She was mad at Halia. It demonstrates that the fuse, but that to get angry between the victim and the defendant was short. It demonstrates that when Halia and Bryanna began to argue and fight, that fuse to become enraged was very short. And the state submits to you that Ms. Barozzini, when she became enraged, did exactly what she had thought about in the past. She stabbed Halia Culbertson. Your Honor, in my closing remarks, I just would like to note this from the pre-sentence investigation, because I agree with the PSI writer. The PSI writer writes that there was an accountable attitude towards the incident offense expressed by the offender. Unfortunately, she has a tendency to assume victim stance by focusing on the alleged actions of the victim rather than her own. Your Honor, I think that that's an articulate summation of what happened in this case. Your Honor, the purposes of felony sentencing, as you know, are to protect the public from future crime by the offender, to punish the offender, and to promote effective rehabilitation of the offender. Those overriding principles in this case demand prison. Your Honor, the state asks this court to give Ms. Barozzini the maximum potential prison sentence allowed by law. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear from the defense in mitigation.
Your Honor, thank you. I have submitted a sentencing memorandum wherein I address all of the factors I believe the court must consider in deciding whether this case is one that is more serious or less serious, whether recidivism is more likely or less likely. And in my memorandum, I've encouraged the court to come to the conclusion that although this is a serious offense, that this particular form of the offense is less serious compared to other forms of the same offense. I don't by any means want to minimize the effect that this has had on Ms. Culbertson, her family and friends. I appreciate their being here today and the opportunity they had to address the court. I will not repeat or review those factors. I think the memorandum was sufficient. Additionally, I did attach letters of support from family and friends of Bryanna, and again, I won't present that for a second time here in the courtroom. I do think the record should reflect we have read the pre-sentence investigation. We find it generally to be accurate. We do have some dispute, however, with the section entitled The Details of the Incident Offense, recognizing that the PSI writer merely took the summary from the Columbus Police Department's investigative summary and basically repeated it here, but there are some factors I think that we would like to highlight. This summary, and I think that some people have inferred or implied or maybe out and out said that there was a challenge to fight that was from Halia to Bryanna, and that challenge was accepted, and that this was somehow mutual combat. Well, Your Honor, I would suggest that that is not so. What I'd like to do is present, if I may, some security video that shows from the store kind of what happened right outside the store. And for the record, if it's all right, I'm going to fast forward this to, well, I guess we're pretty close to there. I apologize, 24:45 as the timer's on the upper right-hand side. Back up just a smidgen, I apologize. What we see here, and I apologize, in the upper right-hand corner is 22:45:51, and that's Ms. Culbertson leaving with the friends that she was with after being told to leave the store. Now, Your Honor, I'm going to fast forward this, because there's a period of time, to 48, 47:25, I'll do it right there. And there, Your Honor, you can see Ms. Culbertson pacing back and forth in front of the store. And there, 22:48 and 24 seconds is when Bryanna and her friend exit the store. Now, it has been certainly implied that she came out to accept the challenge to fight Ms. Culbertson. But I believe that the evidence is anything but that. She comes out with drinks in her hand, not alcoholic drinks, no weapon in her hand, clearly not coming out in order to engage into a fight. Further, as I play this video a little further, we see that she and her boyfriend take a direct path to the car in which they had come. They didn't go looking for Ms. Culbertson's friends. They were minding their business, thinking it had been somehow resolved or over, and they were heading just to peacefully go home. Again, no weapon, drinks in her hand, which makes it difficult to fight somebody with drinks in your hand, but it's clearly that she wasn't coming out expecting to be involved in a fist fight, the mutual combat which has been implied. And then you can see that Ms. Culbertson approaches from what on this video is from the left. That's, unfortunately, we have no volume. However, Mr. Barrage, who was a friend of Ms. Culbertson's, had the opportunity and took that opportunity to video Ms. Culbertson as Ms. Culbertson was waiting for Bryanna to come out of the store. I'd like to
Halia, what you about to do, bro? Where's she at, bro? Where's she at, bro? She's scared, bro. She's scared. Halia, you should drag her out the store, Buzz.
I'm outside. My butt, bitch.
No, we waiting right here till you get your ones. I've been waiting to see her ass get beat for a minute, bro.
I'm talking about cocaine. Who is sitting there doing cocaine?
You know, what that clearly shows is
Halia.
there's a significant period of time when Ms. Culbertson is waiting. Ms. Bryanna comes out with drinks in her hand. There is a glass door, but there's posters or pictures or whatever covering that. I think it aptly disputes the fact that this was a mutual combat. Let's get into a fist fight, and then fist fight got out of hand. And at that time, Bryanna had pulled a knife. In watching and reviewing the video that was played about the actual event a little while ago, and I had mentioned in the sentencing memorandum, I had counted no less than 30 steps that my client took backwards. She pulled a knife from her pocket and took 15 more steps backwards away from Ms. Culbertson. She didn't want to engage at all. This was more an assault on behalf of Ms. Culbertson than a mutual fist fight. And at the time, as Mr. Barrett said, she's afraid. She was in fear, and she was absolutely afraid. When her friend tried to jump in and help, Mr. Barrett threatened him.
Now, where's Mr. Barrage? He should have been charged. Yes. He encouraged all this, yeah. Sit down.
Nobody stopped it. And there were people there that could have said, hey, you're my best friend. You don't need to do this. Let's stop it. Stop. They could have stopped it at any time, and nobody did. Instead, they videoed it for content to post later and be funny or famous. And they did so knowing that an assault was going to take place. And that probably should anger us more than almost anything else. But that said, as I've mentioned, she was in fear. She was backing up. The evidence is clear that at the time after she was slapped, and don't forget that she had been pushed first and threatened and slapped, and then she went forward and lunged at Ms. Culbertson. And for that,
well, this is the reason we have a plea bargain, is because of all this. But your client, no doubt, approached her with a knife after being slapped.
But
when Halia was moving away from her. And that's why we have this plea bargain, and that's why it was pled the way that it was pled. Your client, I agree, it didn't instigate it, but once it started, it was a fist fight.
well,
So And then she pursued her and stabbed her.
We don't disagree with that. At the moment of the stabbing, she was approaching Ms. Culbertson, who was backing up at that moment. The fight, however, or the struggle, whatever, how you want to call it, continued after that with, of course, Ms. Culbertson continuing to beat Bryanna. But all that said, yes, I 100% agree that that is why this was pled the way it was. There was certainly sufficient indicia of self-defense where a jury may well have found that she was not at fault of creating the situation, did not use unreasonable force, was in reasonable and honest fear of imminent serious bodily harm or death. And that is why it was pled the way it was, because there was certainly an opportunity to present that. But the fact that we did not present that to a jury does not mean that the court should not count that toward the mitigation and the mitigating circumstances in this case. So appreciate that, Your Honor. Everything else, Your Honor, I've mentioned in the sentencing memorandum, with the exception of one thing I would like to add. From the very first time that I met Bryanna and her family, which was early April of 2023, she has expressed remorse and an understanding of the harm that she had caused. It's one of the very first conversations that we all had in my office was the effect that this had on the Culbertson family and friends. And I know that there has not been an opportunity for her to send a letter or apologize or try to even explain what happened that night, because I made it clear to everybody they should have no contact. We didn't want to make things worse. So for that, was my decision, and my client was following my directions in that. Your Honor, as I suggested in the sentencing memorandum, we believe that a period of community control would be appropriate based on the specific factors and circumstances of this case. Thank you.
Thank you. You have the right to make a statement. It's up to you. You don't have to. It's up to you.
I never once thought I would be here today with these charges. I also have never been one to start a fight. I'm always the person to back away from confrontation. Not a day goes by that this incident hasn't been on my mind. I understand and feel for the victim's family, as I know the harm I have caused them is indescribable. I also feel for my own family, as the situation has caused them a lot of pain. I can understand and appreciate the harm that I have caused now. I would be living with this guilt the rest of my life. I took a life, and I understand the victim's family will suffer for the rest of their lives, as will my family for what I've put them through. I pray and will continue to pray for all parties involved.
All right, thank you. This is a tragedy. Two young women, both acting somewhat immaturely. In my day, you had a fist fight, you had a fist fight. You either won or you lost. Now everybody wants to bring a weapon. There are mitigating factors here. She is eligible for probation. Now, I'm not going to give her probation, but she's eligible for probation. Your family's going to get to see you, spend time with you, watch you grow up, see your wedding. They'll never get that opportunity. I do believe that the case was, I don't control plea bargains, but I think it was an appropriate plea bargain. I was fully ready to go to trial. We started a trial. I don't make the decisions about plea bargains, but I think it was an appropriate one, having watched and reviewed all this. So the courts considered the factors in sentencing in 29, 11, and 12, and gone through the more serious factors, less serious factors. You have no record whatsoever. You have a lot of people who think a lot of you, and you obviously have a lot of good things in your life. So did she. That's what makes this a tragedy. I'm going to give you a 3-year prison sentence, 3 days jail credit. You are going to have the ability for early release, and I will consider that at the appropriate time. They'll have the right to come to court and dispute that. You will go to prison. If you have a bad prison record, you're not getting out early. So you need to avoid conflict in prison and or any serious rule violations. Once if you get out of prison early, you'll be under the court's supervision and probation, my supervision. If you don't get out early, you'll serve your sentence, and when you do get out, you will be supervised for a period of 1 to 3 years. It's called post-release control. Post-release, you're out of prison. Control the prison authorities will assign you a parole officer and monitor your behavior. If you would violate, you could go back for another year and a half. So if everything went wrong for you, you could do 4.5 years. You do well in prison, take programming, you did accept responsibility here, you have the chance to get out early. They're going to take you into custody now. You may have her sign that form, please, prison imposed.
Your Honor, would you waive the fine and court costs?
Fines and court costs are waived.
Thank you.
The weapon will be confiscated and destroyed. I do want to thank everybody. I think everybody obeyed the rules of the court in a tough situation.